This morning we've heard some presentation about things that are going to hit us, things that are going to change. But I thought, let's spend a little time on what we can do. For example, I should probably, after hearing about the fertility rate, quickly go back home and I've got 2 children. I think I need to have a 0.3 child to maintain the world population. So let's see how we can make that happen. But today, with all the changes and transformations and disruptions that most of you are dealing with, what can we do? So in order to figure out what most of our clients are doing, we set out and we've interviewed about 30 clients across categories, across different sort of levels of disruptions across the globe, to figure out how different clients are dealing with it. And we asked them 3 questions. What are the biggest disruptors? Is your brand initiating any of these disruptions? What separates the leaders from the followers? To try to learn, what can we do? What are some learnings that we have from it? Now, there's an article, and I think everybody will receive that article, so you can sort of deep dive into it. I just want to highlight some of the points that I kind of found interesting and take you through sort of a whirlwind tour of the learnings that we had, right? So let's first talk about disruptive trends. I don't want to spend too much time on it because we've heard it this morning, and I think we recognize some of the digitalization, you know, whether it's e-commerce, the apps. I mean, we're familiar with how this is the one thing that most of the people we've interviewed mentioned is really going to disrupt or transform the market. And the other one are sort of new competitors hitting them. And this is real. I remember that last week I had a call. I live in New York, and I had a call with one of our clients who's in the healthcare insurance business in the US. And he was talking to me about maybe we should stop our brand tracker. Yeah, we've been doing this for years, and we're a little bit better than all the other healthcare suppliers in the US. Nothing's really changing. You know, nothing's going to happen to our market. And I said, well, actually, early last year, I thought, wasn't it Amazon and JP Morgan and a venture capitalist decided that they would disrupt the market? So the next brand is not going to be your brand. It's not going to be an Aetna, or it's not going to be one of those brands that nobody knows. It's going to be Amazon. Are you tracking yourself against them? What's going to happen if such a big brand is going to hit the insurance market in the US? And thereby he decided to actually change the tracker instead of sort of killing it, right? That's going to happen. So that's just one example. So what are the roots of the transformation? Now, we've heard one of the demographic roots about people already, but there's more. It's not just the demographics. There's a lot of behavioral change in Gen Z and in the younger population. And I was, for example, hit, I have, well, I'm not American, I'm Dutch, but I live in New York. And I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. And my 14-year-old in high school, first year high school, he told me, he sat in the class and they introduced themselves, they give the name, and everybody has to say, how do you identify? So my son is, hi, I'm kind of Rademaker, I identify as a he. Right? Because it's not necessarily true that every boy identifies as a he or as a she. And there are children in his classroom that identify as a they. Because they don't feel they're a boy, they don't feel they're a girl, they're not it, like they're not an object, so it's a they. And that was completely normal in the class. For me, I'm 54, I'm like, dude, that is way beyond my, you know, how I was raised. But that is the new normal. So in terms of how, and you already see beauty companies and healthcare companies dealing with this whole gender fluidity, right? It's disruptive. So that's just one example. Technology. And it's not just new technology that has changed. Like here's an example of how I believe in the near future we will get our new beef, right? It's not necessarily coming from animals anymore, right? So this is, but there's also a counter effect, right? For example, in the beer industry, how people are looking for new home-brewed beers, which is a fast-growing industry, you know, driven by technology. So technology is changing a lot in both directions. And then there is context. Rules, regulations, general opinions, right? We've had the whole transformation from cigarettes to vapes. Now sugar is the new tobacco, right? You know, you can't eat sugar anymore, and there's going to be more. So rules and regulation, and how will that disrupt our category? And how can we embrace the category, right? Now, then we asked, now we know some of the disruption, how it's affecting you. How do you deal with that? What are the clients that are more disruptive, how they're dealing with it? Well, one of them is that we experiment. We try to create a culture that we're willing to dare stuff, right? Uber Freight, Amazon Drone, do stuff that is not done before, and we can test it, we can try it, we can do research, but let's just experiment, right? That's one. Number two, fundamentally transforming the roots of our business, which means, for example, the CEO of MasterCard that said, you know, from now, I said it last year, from now on, we're not a credit card company anymore, we're a tech company, right? A car company in Germany who said, we're not a car company anymore, we're intuitive mobility. Now, it sounds like a name, but it fundamentally drives resources, investments, people that you hire. So for MasterCard, it changed completely the way people thought, what is the company that I work for? So that's another way that the people that we've interviewed said we're dealing with it. Building incubators. Right? Here's an example from L'Oreal that has this wearable. I think there's also things you can put on your nails, and they measure the UV impact on your skin, and that will then tell you what kind of skin moisturizer or whatever to your protection to use. Right? This came from an incubator. Now, incubators have been around for many years, but more and more companies are trying to build these incubators themselves. Right? PepsiCo has an incubator down in Soho in New York in kind of a cool environment. You have Philips has an incubator in a different area. Now, if you do it well, it's incredibly powerful. We also have clients that said, we do this, it's important. But you know, we've got the 7th floor of our building is empty, why don't you go sit there? And you can use the assistant that also is working with the CMO. Now, once you start diffusing the idea of an incubator, people are going to be pulled back into your organization, and you don't get this real transformative innovations out of it. So if you do an incubator, if you're thinking about this, do it well. And if you do it well, it can be very powerful. Working with experts. That means getting Gen Z people in, like getting super users, getting super consumers in your organization to work with you and find ideas on how to deal with these information. So that's, now, the most important thing when I was thinking about these elements, right? What is the real driver of change? And I've taken something from behavioral psychology, which is called internal or external locus of control, which I found really fits well with organizations as well. So an external locus of control are like people who are, for example, dealing with depression. They feel that everything is happening to them. They have no control on what's happening to them. Right? That causes anxiety, that causes depression, that causes a feeling, or it can even cause physical illnesses. Right? Things happen to you. An internal locus of control feels like I am actually part of the solution. I make things happen. Things that are happening are because I want them to happen. Not that it's actually true, but you know, it's that feeling that you have. Right? So if you take that idea and make that, sorry, want to move back, was I too fast? Good. So if you take that idea of an internal locus of control and apply that to company, how do you create such an internal locus of control for your company? So here are a few ideas that the people that we've interviewed said that they do. Is one, stay more than ever relevant for your consumers. And that means not just a simple questionnaire, but truly understanding how people make choices. What do they do in the different occasions? How do their minds work? So it is much deeper level, really understanding how to remain relevant to your consumers. Number two, dare to embrace new possibilities, which is easy to say, like be brave. Of course we're brave, and it's easy to say now that you're brave, but it means much more. It means that your company allows you to take risks and fail. Like this kind of fits in with the last point, the third point, is creating a culture of growth. It sounds easy, but it's incredibly complicated. I've given a sort of an entrepreneurship training once to a big organization that wanted to be more entrepreneur, want to have an internal locus of control, and we agreed that to move in that organization, that big global organization, from a VP to an SVP level, we decided that they had to go to for an interview and show at least 2 examples where they failed, where they sort of majorly screwed up a program, and show what they've learned and how they've grown. If they're unable to show 2 things where they failed in, they would not move to an SVP level. That's just an example of how an organization decides to make this creature and culture and freedom of growth and innovation part of the culture. So it means willing to take risks, set people up to drive change. Again, it sounds simple, but it is all a way of trying to get an internal locus of control. And this ties in with a study that Ipsos has done in Mena. It's called the Most Influential Brand Study. And we said, what are the drivers? If you look at the top 10 most influential brands, what are the key drivers? And from the analysis, it showed it's innovativeness, relevance, and trustworthiness. Well, the first two are completely tying in what we saw from the interviews with all these marketeers, right? Brands that are innovative are 25% more likely to introduce people to things they never knew. Right? So these are really important drivers, but it means more than just saying that you are innovative and relevant. So for me, the final thought is, very quickly, so let me go back, is don't be a victim. Shape your brand's future. So it's creating that internal locus of control for your organization. And that is a summary, a little sort of flight through to the paper that you will have in your back, and you can read through this in your own time. All right? Thank you for your time.